educated homeschooled, non-traditional education. Brilliant as far as I'm concerned. Been interviewed in Reason magazine. She writes all the time for many online outfits. She also is a tremendously artistic photographer with a great eye. Some of the best pictures that I've ever been taken of me have been taken by her. And she also happens to be my personal favorite dance partner. So please help me welcome Avens O'Brien.
Mic check, 1, 2. Ah, look at that. Hi, everybody. Oh, look at that. I didn't know that they made that for me. That's so nice. Do I just hit the button to make the first slide come up? Let's test it. No, that didn't work. Hi, everybody. Ah, there we go. Excellent. Okay. So, Anarchapulco. This is actually my 4th Anarchapulco, but usually I am taking photographs. This is actually the first time that I'm ever speaking on the stage in Anarchapulco. And I go to a lot of liberty conferences. I go to a lot of anarchy conferences. And I'll admit that my favorite thing, I'm very glad that you're all here to see me speak. I'm feeling very honored about that. But my favorite part of every conference is the hotel bar. And the reason for that is not because I'm much of a drinker, I'm more of a cannabis smoker, but because I love to talk to each of you. Like, watching someone give a talk, that's all well and good, but talking to each individual person and finding out why you're here, what brought you here. Thoroughly, like, I just love that experience. I love hearing about the first time you picked up a copy of Atlas Shrugged, or the first time you saw Ron Paul speak. In fact, that's the thing I love to talk about, is what brought you here, what brought you to liberty. And so many people have these incredible stories of the moment they realized that the state was evil, or the moment that they got a Bitcoin and wanted to know more about decentralized currency. There's all these incredible ways in which you came here. And I love to talk to each of you and find out what that way was. Because for me, I was born here. I was raised in a libertarian anarchist community. I was raised by parents who believed in peaceful parenting before it was a thing. They just said, we're not going to spank our children. We're not going to treat them like things that we own, or things that we can treat less than we would treat another adult human being. I was raised with such an incredible sense of self, and also I didn't go to public school. I was unschooled before unschooling was a thing. And also what I love about this picture, so this is actually me, and the flower that I'm picking right there, or looking at right there, is actually a lady slipper. And if you're familiar with US law in a number of states, it's actually illegal to pick a lady slipper. And I find it really funny that my mother captured this shot of me picking a lady slipper. But so there's my family. My mother looks exactly like me, or I look exactly like her. I recognize that. But growing up in that environment, growing up without going to school, without force imposed in my life, what I love about that experience is I have all these little stories that other people don't have about, the moment that their parents my parents let me know that I own myself. And obviously this is not an original quote by my mother. Lots of people have said, you own yourself, I own me. But my mother used to say it a lot of times when I would do something that she didn't like, and she'd be like, well, you own yourself, you own the consequences of that decision. And she didn't impose external consequences, which was really cool. But these 3 pictures right here, I like them because there's Mom. She had me right before she turned 40. There's me drawing on a little board, and I love it because I look like I'm making an anarchist symbol, if you kind of squint your eye and look. And the third thing, that's my brothers. So my older brothers are named Ragnar, because my parents loved Atlas Shrugged. My middle brother was named Hagbard because my parents loved the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea. And then that's me in my cute little Christmas dress. And my family actually didn't celebrate Christmas. We celebrated Yule because we were pagan, because it wasn't already like weird enough that we were libertarians and that we unschooled and that they didn't spank us and that like we had weird names like Ragnar, Hagbard, and Avens. On top of that, we were pagan. So we were like a whole lot of weird. And there's this really funny story from my childhood where during that Christmas, my dad's work had a Christmas party. And at that Christmas party, there was like a Santa Claus. And we didn't, like in my family, we didn't have Santa Claus. I didn't know much about Santa. I just knew he was some mythological figure that other people knew about. I didn't know exactly if they worshipped him or told stories about him, what they did. But at that Christmas party, Santa Claus was there, like the kids were lining up and sitting on his lap and getting their photo taken and telling him that, you know, what they wanted for Christmas, and he'd give him a little present. And I didn't have any part of that because I was like, I don't know who that guy is and I have no interest in doing that. And so I was just running around playing, and after a while, Santa Claus got up and started walking amongst people, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, all that jazz. And he saw me and realized that he hadn't seen me, he hadn't talked to me. And so he picked me up without introducing himself, without like any kind of like, hi, little girl. No, he literally just picked me up and sat me on his lap and was like, what do you want for Christmas, little girl? And I shrieked because I was like, what the hell is this person picking me up without, like, who are you? You're a stranger. And so I shrieked at the top of my lungs. I kicked Santa Claus in the shins, and then I ran away, and I actually hid under the Christmas tree. And obviously, when I shrieked, everyone looked over, and my mother was like, oh my goodness, what happened? And he explained that he went to pick me up, and she's like, did you ask her if she wanted to be picked up? And he was like, no, why would I do that? And she's like, well, of course she kicked you in the shins. And a bunch of people were like, oh, you should make her apologize for kicking Santa. And she was like, no, Santa should apologize for picking her up without her consent. And so my mother, that lady, who looks pretty much exactly like me, sat there, brought me out from under the Christmas tree, brought Santa out, and was like, Santa, do you have something to say? And that's my mom, and that's my mother saying, don't fucking let anyone touch you without your consent. You own yourself, and you're the only person who gets to decide when you're going to be picked up, when you're going to be touched, when you're going to anything in your life. You don't get to be, you aren't forced to do these things. It's about consent. And I love that because that's one of many stories, but it's one story that I really think of as foundational in explaining to me that liberty is about consent. Liberty is about, like, I can give you money if I consent to it. I can donate to your cause, or I can buy your product. And I can decide that I want to, you know, kiss someone, hug someone, sit on their lap, have sex with them with consent. And that's such an important thing that we need to bring to the world. We need to inform people about. We need to tell people about. You own you. And therefore, when someone else is, when people come up against each other, when people like their lives and their bodies and their whatever rub up against each other, you need consent. And the other thing that taught me was about self-sovereignty, about the idea that this is me, this is who I am, and I have full control over that. And so do you, that each individual person has full control over their own lives, and that I own myself and you own you. And I think that's important because that instilled this love of liberty, this love of me being able to decide for myself what my life was, and this love of you being able to decide for yourself what your life is and what you're going to do. And I think that's really important because a lot of people, there's a lot of different ways that people come to liberty, but some people come to liberty because they love the idea of being free, and they come here because they want to help other people be free, right? And then there's people that come here because they rebel, because they're contrarian. They don't like the state, but they also just don't like the mainstream narrative of whatever the fuck. They don't like the status quo. And it's important to recognize, are you here? Do you love liberty Like, are you here as an anarchist, as a libertarian, as whatever you call it, voluntarist, whatever you call yourself? Are you here because you love liberty? Or are you here because you really enjoy being a contrarian, because you really enjoy rebellion? And I like to hope that most of you are that first one. But we do see people in this movement who are a little bit more of the contrarian, and a little bit more of the rebellious type. And the thing that worries me about that is that being into liberty because you like rebellion is, it's not, it's gonna have problems down the road. As we know, the mainstream world tells us all the time that we have to choose between two things, right? We have to choose between the feminine and the masculine. We have to choose between the left and the right. How many times have we heard that? You're either on the left or the right. You know, you have to choose between nationalism and globalism. You have to choose between women and men, the rich or the poor, the SJWs or the Nazis. You're one or the other, right? The sluts are the prudes, the liberals, the conservatives. And then just for you all, taxation, by the way, is theft. But the problem is that we shouldn't have to choose between these two things. We shouldn't have to choose between any of those options, because we need both the feminine and the masculine, and we also don't need the SJWs and the Nazis, and we should throw that in the trash. And when we pick a team between two false dichotomies, it's where you fall into this violent, addictive, destructive cycle. And some anarchists still do. Some anarchists do fall into that. They fall into this us or them mentality. You pick a team, whatever it is, and you let yourself be dependent on what they do, whoever they are. If we don't like, you know, what the mainstream has to say about X, then we have to oppose it. And that's not a good way to look at liberty, you know? Just because you have philosophical issues with something like Black Lives Matter doesn't mean you should be like, Blue Lives Matter, right? That's not a good thing to switch over to. But the problem is some people do. Some people, even in the anarchist space, do. Even the purists can be addicts. They can be addicted to that cycle. And there are two examples that I'm going to give here. And they're important to me to recognize because one of them in particular was known for being a podcaster and a YouTube celebrity-ish, celebrity being a relative term, but somebody who used to talk all the time about liberty, about freedom, about anarchy. He had this incredible video called "The Story of Your Enslavement." His name was Stefan Molyneux. And he used to be somebody you'd go to for principled analysis about the state and about anarchy and about the world. But then, in 2014, something happened that I'm going to play a little video for you. It's not of Stefan, but it's a U.S. event, but it's a world event I think we all remember.
Right here. I got nothing. Hold on. Don't touch me, please.
The girl came over, gave us a bag and gave us shit.
Damn, man.
Stop. Give us your hand, buddy.
Where your hand, buddy? I can't breathe.
Once again, police beating up on people. Back up. Right here. Back up and get on that step. Okay. Back up.
All right, I think we might remember that. That video makes me a little sick to watch, so I'm sorry about that. That video makes me really fucking angry, and it should make all of us really fucking angry. But seeing that event happen, I think that the appropriate libertarian response, or the appropriate anarchist response, is to talk about the nature of government as something that every single law, no matter how stupid, it's a taxed cigarette, we're just doing cigarette taxes. At the end of every law, there's a gun. And that gun will kill you if you do not comply. It might take a little while, you might go through a court system, you might go through a fine system, you might go through a prison system, but somewhere along the lines, laws are enforced by either the threat of violence or the actual violence. And that's an incredible example of it. And when you're an anarchist speaker, an anarchist podcaster, this is a really good opportunity to explain the nature of the state as violent. But internalized programming may be rearing its ugly head if someone's reaction to that clip was...
Should the police have done what they did? I don't know. Look, I'm not the right guy to ask about this.
So that's Stefan Molyneux saying that he's not sure if what the cops did was wrong, which is fucking terrible to see an anarchist say. And then right after that...
The caller called in and said that it was a victimless crime for Eric Garner to be selling his cigarettes. Now, to me, a victimless crime is one in which there's no complaint. To say that it is a victimless crime when someone is selling cigarettes at a price or in a quantity that the store owners are not legally permitted to sell, it is not technically correct to say that that's a victimless crime. I certainly didn't say that Eric Garner was initiating force, and I certainly accepted and explained that the government was initiating force against the store owners. But to say that it is a victimless crime is incorrect, because he is taking away business from the store owners, and the store owners have no choice but to call the police. But the difference is, of course, that the mafia and the police are not the same thing. You can hire private security guards to protect you from the mafia. The police will assist you in protection from the mafia. You can move away to a locale where the mafia is not operating. And all of these things are choices that you have, but you cannot do that in the case of the police. So it's really not the same thing at all.
So that's bullshit. Let's be very clear that that entire argument that he just made basically says that competition is victimization. What he basically just said there, without saying it, but without saying it directly about these things, is he basically said that Uber victimizes the taxi cartels and the Airbnb victimizes the hotel industry. Like, what the fuck is that anarchist saying? Yeah, no. What's really funny is that one of the anarchists, one of the other well-known podcasting anarchists who happened to call him out for that being bullshit, was a man named Christopher Cantwell. And if any of you are familiar with Christopher Cantwell, a couple of years later, he kind of pulled this whole, oh, I'm a principled anarchist. But a couple of years later, he was interviewed by Vice.
Well, I'm carrying a pistol. I go to the gym all the time. I'm trying to make myself more capable of violence in the hopes that somebody more capable will come along and do that. Somebody like Donald Trump, who does not give his daughter to a Jew.
So Donald Trump, but like more racist.
A lot more racist than Donald Trump.
Okay. All right. So another one down. And this is the thing, is that like that man hates the left so much, he doesn't give a shit about liberty anymore. And that's really fucked up. That's really fucked up. And that's something that's happened. We see it happen with like kind of left-leaning libertarians where, suddenly they're apologizing for the state, saying, well, I don't like the rich, so it's okay that the rich are highly taxed and shit like that. We see that sometimes. But like these two examples, I found that Molyneux and Cantwell are both people that seem to hate the left way more than they love freedom. And that's a problem, because for so many people, it's about who do you blame for the fact that you're not free. And they're very fond of doing this, and there are other people out there who do this, who basically want to tell you you're not free because of these things, because of the left, because of the right, because the immigrants are taking your jobs, because the feminists are making it so you can't get laid, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Jews, the reptilians. There's all sorts of people that you try to blame, but you own yourself. Or to somebody else. And so I see this happen a lot with different anarchists. There's other people that I'm not going to bother naming. I'm not going to fill this entire presentation with videos of terrible people. But freedom comes when you stop blaming other people for the fact that you're not free. You stop denying your own agency. When you stop carrying the baggage of the controls of your childhood, and when you stop disempowering yourself by blaming others. Because this is one of my favorite Heinlein quotes. My mother used to have it like printed out and like on the fridge. And it's, I am free no matter what rules surround me. If I find them tolerable, I tolerate them. If I find them too obnoxious, I break them. I am free because I know that I alone am morally responsible for everything I do. And that's like the key to how I was raised. My mother was like, you own yourself. You don't want to take a bath? Well, you're going to stink and I don't want to hang out with you. You own yourself. There's a consequence. That's what's going to suck about your choice. But she believed that, like, I own me. I get to make these determinations for myself. And it's so incredible because we have these opportunities when we recognize that, when we recognize that we have the capacity to free ourselves, that we don't have to wait for people that we don't like or the conspiracy that we think of somebody's keeping us down. We can do incredible things. I'm not going to read this long quote by Ayn Rand, but I figured I'd put it up as a nice little connection to this. Is, you know, if we don't like the Federal Reserve and we don't like fiat currency, we can make Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, right? If we don't like the hotel industry, there's Airbnb, right? Some individuals got together with a bunch of other individuals and said, let's make something really cool, right? And then you got Uber, right? That is taken away the power from the taxi cartels in numerous states and cities. We have this ability to free ourselves using the market, using our ideas, our innovations, the way that we raise our children, the way that my parents raised me. Like, these are so important in freeing ourselves so that government can't touch us, and that those things don't matter, those restrictions don't matter. These are my friends, John and Lily. John was murdered 15 days ago here in Acapulco. But John and Lily left the States because they had been they've been dealing marijuana. They'd been making shatter, I believe. And the key was that for them it was medicine. It was about dealing with her pain. And they faced criminal charges. They faced prison. And so they ran. They said, you know what, I'm not going to stay and deal with this. I'm going to run to Mexico. And so they moved here to Acapulco. And I was talking to Lily this morning, and she said, you know, there can be always things to regret in one's life, but I never regret coming here because freedom isn't about safety. Freedom is about freedom. Freedom is about that decision to take my life into my own hands and do what I want with it. And that's such an incredible thing about human beings, about what we can do. We can leave states that we don't like. We can leave the country. We can take our money, our income, and we can try to take it out of the government's hands. We can work in cryptocurrency. There's all these opportunities for us to take our lives into our own hands, to take our freedom into our own hands, and to make the government obsolete. We don't even have to fight against it. We just have to do something beautiful and incredible that frees other people. And that's what I think is really amazing about human beings, about the human spirit, is that we do awesome shit. Besides the fact that like individual people working with other individual people have created incredible things like the internet and cryptocurrency and apps that free you from these cartels and institutions. But human beings have been doing this forever. Like, there were a bunch of people that, you know, when human beings were just, you know, on their little plot of land wherever they started, right? And they walked to the edge of the land and there was a bunch of water, and they tried swimming it, and it was like too far. And somebody was like, you know, what if we put some like wood together and make a boat? And then another person was like, yes, let's build. So a bunch of people built boats together, right? And then somebody was like, let's put sails on those boats and let's see how far we can go. And those people discovered other countries, other continents. Countries don't matter. Continents. And then there we were, being able to travel from continent to continent and spread and build the lives that we wanted to build. Each individual person was able to build the life they wanted to build. And then somebody was like, you know what? Why can't we go up? And so we're not birds. We don't have wings. We don't have hollow bones. We don't have feathers. But a bunch of guys started studying science, and they went, let's make an airplane. And so a bunch of people made airplanes, and now I got to Acapulco in like 3 hours. I traveled thousands of miles and got here in 3 hours. It's really fucking cool. And similarly, human beings were like, I really want to go up there to space. But there's no air up there, there's no temperature control. How the hell do I get there? And somebody attached a tin can to a rocket and flew us the fuck up to space. And we walked upon the moon, and now we have a robot on another planet. And that's pretty good, that's pretty cool. Human beings do really fucking cool things because we love to explore, we love to discover, we love to be free to just play and find ways to improve each other's lives. And sometimes we don't even know that we're going to improve each other's lives. We just go, I want to make this easier for myself. And then, oh, now you can download that out too, and it makes life easier for you. We're fucking awesome. And it's such an opportunity. It's such an amazing chance for each of us to look at what is in the way of us being awesome. And I'll tell you right now, it's us. We can do so many things if we just go, hey, I own me, and I don't have to wait for the government to go away. I don't have to wait for the feminists to stop being annoying. I don't have to wait for any of these things that are around me that I dislike. I don't have to blame anyone else. I just have to do me, and I have to do me so well that no one can stop me. There's actually a really great Ayn Rand quote that says, what do you mean, who's going to let me? The question is, who's going to stop me? And that's really the key for me about liberty, is that liberty is about loving the choice to own yourself, the responsibility of what it means to own yourself, and to live that way. And so many people aren't doing that. So many people are rebelling against something. They're being contrarians. They're fighting against other people instead of just saying, "Fuck it, I'm just going to do me, and I'm just going to do me so good that this doesn't matter. I'm free." And so I implore each one of you, each individual person here, to do the same. To look at what is holding you back. The things in your heart, the internal things that you're still stuck into, oh, I hate my parents, or whatever the fuck, or this person did this thing to me once, or whatever. And let that go, and just do you. And do you so good, because you can, and it's amazing, and that's how we get a freer world. And that's it. That's it. I did this in under 30 minutes, and this is for you. Thank you.